In other news, we have 50 subscribers! Yay! Hey guys, today is Book Fun Day! There will be lots of books, I can't promise any fun. I had an idea, kind of inspired by Will, who was talking about his video collection, and I was like, well, I have a giant book collection, but then I have to clean, and I don't like cleaning. So I'm not going to show that to you now. I will once I've cleaned, because there will be a day when I clean properly, and I can be proud of the stuff. I'm going to talk about 5 books that had a great influence on me when I read them. I've read many books, surprise, so I'm going to do different editions because I also have a whole list of fantasy books. I also have a whole list of like Russian books and books from Japan and China, and so I'm going to do separate lists for that. This is a Western edition, and yeah, let's get started. Book number 1 on the list is Achtergroepers Huilen Niet, or Cool Kids Don't Cry, by Jacques Vriends. I read it in 2000, and I was 10 at the time, so it's a very, very long time ago. It was the first book that made me appreciate books. Before, I learned to read when I was 5, and I've always loved reading. I was a tiny information sponge. I read everything, but I didn't read a lot of books. And that changed when I read that book. That's basically the book that it started. It's the first book that made me cry. It's the first book that made me discover the power of storytelling, because the book is about a girl who discovers that she has leukemia, and she's like, 11 years old. She's about to go to high school, and, well, I am gonna do, spoiler alert, at the end she dies. And it was the saddest thing, and it was the first book that made me cry. So I don't have a quote for this one. All the other books have quotes, but it's been 13 years since I've read it last, and I really want to read it again. But that's gonna have to wait, because it's in a different collection that I keep at my dad's, and I have no space for because I live in a shoebox. Book number 2, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I read this book in 2005, and it made me appreciate what literature was, because great literature to me is an incredible world that you get sucked into, and a decent story that tells you something about the nature of mankind. And Brave New World was the first book that was regarded high literature or classic literature that I actually appreciated for it being literature. I got why it was called literature, because most literature is a bit poopy or overestimated. The world in the book is basically everyone is a test tube baby, and there are different classes. You have like Gamma, Delta, something. Charlie? No, that's not it. Something Beta, Alpha, and people are classified according to that. And they live in this society that's very focused on the ego, on sex, on drugs, basically an overload of pressure, and that's how they're controlled by their government. Does that sound familiar? It might. Read the intro to a book today, written by Neil Gaiman. I'll post the title in the doobly-doo because I don't know it by heart. It makes a comparison between Brave New World and 1984. Brave New World is a little bit older. 1984 is from 1948, if I'm not mistaken, and it's about this very totalitarian world where people are basically mind-controlled by their government. And 1984 was a huge hit because of Stalinist Russia, and it made people really alert, like, we can't be oppressed, we can't be oppressed, we cannot be oppressed with violence. We cannot be oppressed with fear. 1984 came true a little bit, but what came more true is Brave New World. Sadly. But I think we could be strong to overcome it, because we still have an example in literature. Literature is great. I have hope. So positive today. The quotes that really struck me with this book was, one believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them, and I think that's very telling for our own media, and it's very telling for the book. So I suggest you read it, because it's great, it's excellent. Third book, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Or Gaiman. I think it's Gaiman. Bought in 2005, read in 2007. There's actually a story there. I heard about this book and I really wanted to read it, but it's this big. I could show you, but I don't have it here. So I tried to read it and I kept getting through the first 3 chapters the bunch of times I tried, and it didn't work for me, but still I had this burning desire to read it. And then I went on a motorcycle holiday with my dad in the summer of 2007. He said, "We're on a motorcycle, we don't have a lot of packing space, you can bring 2 books." I brought Harry Potter 7 and American Gods. It was excellent because I had no distractions, and then you just, you sit on a motorcycle all day and then you get to a camping site and there's nothing at a camping site. So you just sit down and you read, and I finished the book in 2 days, even though it has 900 pages. American Gods is about a guy called Shadow who is in prison, and then he gets out early because his wife has died. And it's very, very sad. On his way back to Eagle Point, he meets a man called Mr. Wednesday who offers him a job and seems to know a lot about Shadow. That's how he gets sucked into the world of the gods. And if you think that's just what the book is about, you haven't read it properly, because that book is about so much more than that. It really raised some philosophical and religious questions with me. It involves a lot of pantheons and a lot of known gods and unknown gods and creatures, and it makes you wonder about the world, really. That book really raised a lot of questions, but it also helped me. It's sort of a nice insight into a power greater than yourself. So it reaffirmed my belief that all books are read at the moment that you need them. I had a lot of questions, philosophical, religious, life, whatever, and that book certainly didn't answer them, but it made me feel understood, and that's a great feeling. Especially if you get it from a book, because books giving me the feelies is the best. The quote that really resonated with me from that book, actually there are a lot of quotes, because 800 pages, and I think it's like 90,000 words. Even nothing cannot last forever. Think about it. And then, last but not least, but maybe a little bit of the weirdest, World War Z by Max Brooks. I read this in 2011, and it's made an impact because it has a very interesting style of writing. It tells about a global zombie war infection, and it's all written down in articles and interviews, and it has a very interesting insight in a globalized society wrecked by death and destruction. And I'm gonna share the quote now because it ties in so beautifully, because you sometimes think, like, what if a major disaster happened? There are so many things that could happen to us. Probably not zombies. I mean, there are so many natural disasters that are about to happen, like Yellowstone and Los Palmas sinking, that you'd wonder how the world would connect to each other and help each other, because in disaster, people helping other people is actually the rule. We're social animals and we have to stick together. So, the quotes. This is the only time for high ideals, because those ideals are all we have. We don't have a common heritage, we don't have a millennia of history. All we have are the dreams and promises that bind us together. All we have is what we want to be. I think that is something that we all need to live by. That's the thing that binds all the people in the world. We all have ideals, and we all have this thing that we want to become. We want to become better people, and I think that this book, is a great example, or a great insight to what it could be like. Probably not with zombies. It gives me hope a little bit. That's weird. I am a realist. So this video has become very long. I'm gonna leave you, and I'll see you next week, and more celebrating on all the subscribers. If you're not subscribed and you want to subscribe, you should subscribe, because with 100 subscribers, we're gonna do something special. Okay, I'm not gonna hold the other four to that, but I'm gonna do something special.